Hello, Lakers and Diamonds audience. Welcome back. I'm Scott Gibbs here with co-founder DJ Lagore and special guest, Halloween baby,
You got me.
Aaron Michael Gibbs.
Here I am.
You guys must know each other.
No.
I do recognize him. Even with the mustache. He's trying to go incognito on me. Even with the mustache, I think I recognize him. Yes, I think he lives. I think he lives in my basement.
Look like it.
You paying rent? You just letting him live for free down there?
He does not pay rent. That's a good point. Let me write that down in my.
I want to walk you into that air, but something just
We need skin in the game from our young people, don't we, Deej?
Yes, we do.
We need accountability, responsibility.
That's why my father likes it when the buyers go for a mortgage and not all cash. He always says they gotta have a little skin in the game.
Gotta have some skin in the game. I like the way you think. We should talk more about this today.
I'll only charge a small percentage from that. Good idea.
A nice small commission.
Yep.
All right.
So, DJ and Aaron, what are we here to talk about today? Why is Aaron on this podcast?
Today is a day of reflection. It is a day for Aaron and I to discuss what we've done over the past 2 months. We worked together. We led each other through the Acres of Diamonds program and hit on the 6 topics that we have believe are foundational and important to handling adversity in today's modern world. And there were a couple meetings that I have no notes here. It's just me that I just can remember off the top of my head of some of the things that we talked about that I really deemed valuable and that made me think a little bit differently about things. So I think today is a good opportunity to talk about those and to see if anybody else listening or watching also agrees with what Aaron's views were.
I have to admit it, DJ. Every now and then when he comes up from that basement, he does have something interesting to say. Every now and then.
That's good. That's what we want.
A blind squirrel finds a nut.
I was just about to say something along those lines.
So what are we going to get into? So what do you remember? What was good about it? What was bad about it?
So I remember in the beginning of our meetings, Aaron had a job that he initially, when we were discussing it, he said, yeah, I'm really happy. I really enjoy my work. And his hours were long, so he was making a decent amount of money. And he was in a happy, positive mindset, we could say. And so our first meeting, we talked about culture, as we always do. And at the end of the culture meeting, we have our clients define what their personal culture is, their slogan of who they are. And Aaron's was steady rocking. And and I didn't realize this until we kept moving forward. It was a balance. It was a balance between hustle, grind, and work, and also relaxation and kind of decompressing from that work and everything. And so basically what he was explaining was we need to have a balance. We need to be able to go really hard 100%, and then we also need to completely relax 100%. And so as we moved together through the other individual topics, I realized there was always a sense of balance in everything he was kind of getting at. And so I repeatedly said, this kind of connects back to your steady rocking culture. He goes, yeah, it does. It's balancing it out. And I said he nailed it right off the bat with that steady rocking. So I loved that. It was a great start to our time together.
So Aaron, how did you come to steady rocking? Did you think in those terms before the culture module, or did you come to it through the culture module?
So at the time it was kind of just describing, I was going to work every day, just kind of like steady, grinding through every single day. But at the same time, I was telling DJ that I found my little time, as we said, but if life was a book, I found my time between the spaces of the words to, find little moments of happiness with either my girlfriend or, playing games with my brother or my dog or something like that. So
or your dad.
Yeah, or my dad or my mom. Steady rocking. So I'm steady, but at the same time, I'm doing it my own way. doing it doing it to, have some fun with it. But, at the same time, getting out some results.
Very cool. Yeah, I can tell you it's been interesting watching you navigate school, like dropping out of school and then going back to work and then navigating whether or not you want to go back to school and what kind of job you want. And it's been really neat from a parent standpoint. Once you and Casey and Marcus and your mom all reminded me that I'm not raising little Scots, that I'm supposed to be a father of little Aaron, little Casey, and little Marcus, and let them grow into the men that they're supposed to be. I think I've been a better supporter, and you've grown a lot. I mean, it's been awesome to watch. Steady rocking.
One thing too that Aaron noted on when he was explaining it, he talked about the spaces in between the words in a book. Aaron was explaining that, and it was incredible because he said it's kind of like a book. Like there's words and then there's spaces, and we kind of were both thinking. I went, that is a brilliant metaphor. Like that totally makes sense. And
Yeah,
so I mean, if you think about a book, there are words that are the moments of work and struggle, and then there are the spaces that are moments of relaxation and decompressing. And so Aaron completely understood that, and when he said that, I said that is exactly what it is. Like your life is really a book.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And I think DJ, now you've done enough of these one-to-one sessions with people where almost every session you're expecting to learn something, right?
Yeah, I sometimes am curious if they're learning more or if I'm learning.
It's definitely a symbiotic relationship, no doubt about it.
It's the constant flip of the student and mentor relationship, which I think ultimately is some of the best leaders are okay with that. I'm completely okay with saying, hey, you really controlled this session today. I mean, most of the time, Aaron was the one talking and I was one listening and writing things down. I mean, that's why there's certain questions that we ask are created in order to make someone think deep about what they actually want to say. And so I was, I learned just as much as Aaron did over our time together.
And that's a great point that we talked about last night in actually our group session, our group mastermind session, which is effective communication and in fact, effective influencers are the people that ask the best questions, right? And they use their ears and mouth proportionately, meaning they listen twice as long as they talk. So for example, it's a 70-30 or 75-25 ratio. You should be listening in a conversation 75% of the time and talking 25, right? For real effective communications. And as a coach, especially, that's what you should be doing. So, I mean, you guys are doing it right. Aaron, your questions were supposed to pull out awareness with Aaron, right? Mm-hmm. Aaron's supposed to be the one learning and kind of talking through his stuff.
I think there were moments where Aaron asked me questions. Aaron, do you remember kind of reversing the effect? And I think at the end of some of them, you were like, you could actually ask this, or you could do this to create. Aaron turned into his own coach essentially once we really started diving into the questions.
Yeah, no. I remember we were talking about what was I think it might have been like a time period of struggle of some sorts or something like that. Yeah. And I think I've changed the question up a little bit to make it a little bit more broad. What was a moment that to describe your life? And I was like, why would you choose just a moment to describe your life? Why don't you ask them what's a time period that can describe your life and maybe how long the time period is of some sorts? Because I don't think there's anyone who could be happy with themselves describing a moment in their life that would describe their entire life, because I mean, we all make mistakes. We all have moments that we wish we didn't, do something, and, moments that we were kind of proud that we did something, but that, that's not going to see, that proud moment isn't going to see all the times you failed. That moment that you failed isn't going to see all the times you were really proud of what you did.
I thought that was pretty impressive Like,
Yeah, that is a great observation, guys. As there's a lot of people, like I've seen a couple speakers that they actually do what you guys just described. They say, look, describe the period of life from 0 to 15, from 15 to 25, from 25 to 35, 35 to 45, 55, and on, because let's face it, I mean, we don't have a lot of responsibility, 0 to 16, right? 0 to 18, but then increasing responsibility from 18 to 30, right? So there are pretty distinct periods. Yeah, that's interesting. I like it.
yeah, asking someone to say a moment that defined you or that was influential in you becoming who you were today. People might have specific moments that were turning points of their lives, whether they were good or bad. But when Aaron said, why don't you make it a time period? It basically took that moment and spread it out. And it allows for more influence to take part. So that's just one example of Aaron essentially teaching himself the question. So I really like that. And there were a couple more examples where he kind of asked himself the question as well.
Well, I think the moment question still has some relevance because, I've used the analogy with you, DJ, and other people that I, coach. Aaron, that day that you came home from school and I said, Aaron, how was your day? Do you remember that?
Yeah.
What did you say?
I said it was great.
And I said, why?
Well, because I chose to have a great day.
Right. And that, that'll stick with me forever. Right. Mm-hmm. Because as a parent, you're always wondering, is your messaging getting through? Because especially I think with fathers and sons and mothers and daughters, there's a natural resistance, right? For whatever reason. So, I'd love to think that they're, I'm leading by example in a good way and it's absorbing, but you never really know. Mm-hmm. Right. And then that day when he said that, I was like, that was really a foundational, it was a great indicator for me, right? That there's some good thinking going on there. And
yeah.
Put me at ease a bit.
And one other thing that I too, so that was kind of that was the culture module, the thing that I had remembered that Aaron had mentioned. And then the next thing he said, which at first I didn't agree with, and then I took a step back and I tried to look at it from a different perspective. And when he really dug into it and explained it, it made a lot more sense from a progress standpoint. And we were talking about toughness, and we've said this before, everybody loves the toughness aspect or the toughness topic. And Aaron said, I think you need to moderate your toughness. And I said, moderate your toughness. He said, yeah, like there will be moments where being this big, tough person might not be the best decision. There might be somebody else who might need you, and you might need to maybe miss this workout because you need to go help a friend with something, or you might need to miss X to go substitute for Y. And so he gave like 4 or 5 other examples. And I said, everything is good in moderation. And he said, especially toughness. And so I written, coming from someone who I'm reading all these military books and these people of grit and resilience. And it's like, you don't let people steer you off path. You have a goal, you go find it, you achieve what you want. And then Aaron's saying, well, I think you should moderate it because it might drive you insane. It might drive you to a point where you're now being someone you actually aren't. And so the more I thought about it, I understood where he was coming from. And so I thought that was a very mature answer to, what is toughness to you?
Yeah. So it was, what I had talked about with moderating it is like, no, there's indicators in your body when there's pain going on, like if you're working out really hard and you're getting to a point where your muscles are going to collapse, your body's going to tell you. If you are sick, your body's going to tell you, most likely. But if you're, trying to be tough and going to work every day and spending a lot of your time working out or doing something so that you can become a better person, or better at something at your craft or whatever, there's no indicator in your body that's going to tell you that, your son may need help with something at school that he's dealing with emotionally, that your friend is going through a really tough patch, maybe just had a divorce or something, and he, needs a friend or something like that. There's no indicators in your body that's going to tell you that. And if you stay totally tough and just gritty towards go forward, tunnel vision, which is good in doses, there are no indicators that'll tell you about that stuff. So, I mean, as long as you take a step back and take a look where you're going, but take a look around you first, to make sure there's nothing to be dumbing around you. I mean, you should be all right.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'd ask you to start paying attention to whether or not your body does truly indicate to you those situations, and especially you. I think your body, because I know you, right? So I can actually make some of these comments. I think you do know. I think you do know when you need to move off path. I think it's caught, and it might not be in your body the way you were describing, but it is your stomach or your heart.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? That
yeah, like the butterflies.
The butterflies, right? The intuition, like you get that spidey sense or something. Like, man, I really want to go play hoops right now, but
yeah,
my buddy really needs me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna go, and then you go play hoops, and your gut is doing somersaults, right? Because you did something for yourself instead of something for your buddy.
But if you think, if you thought that, you think that toughness, like, kind of like, almost like, like I said, the tunnel vision type thing, you don't think that would deter some of your body's indicators, and you would kind of, because I mean, we're taught to like fight through the pain type of thing, some of sorts. So that was kind of like the thing I was thinking of, but I totally get that. Yeah, because we do have those moments where we're just like, wow, I really need to work out. And then when you don't do that, the cognitive dissonance type thing, you feel like crap.
Yep.
Right. Yeah. When you're not true to yourself, right? When we're not true to ourselves and we don't do what we know is right, our body does tell us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So the toughness, what I liked about it, you've got me thinking about toughness differently. So what I took from what you guys talked about is the tough decision there, right? The tough decision is actually the kind decision, right? The tough decision is actually to go be kind to your friend. That's the tough decision, to put yourself in the back seat while you put somebody else in the front seat.
To seek someone that that needs something.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Instead of looking forward. Yeah.
Right. That's toughness through kindness, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's interesting. I think that's a really interesting.
I think Aaron mentioned it, the tunnel vision that I think a lot of us have, especially when we have tunnel vision towards something that we want. Maybe it's a physical stature, or it's a relationship, or a specific goal. I think what we should do and actually visualize this is have the tunnel, but make sure the walls of the tunnel are clear.
Wow.
So you can see on the outside.
That's pretty interesting.
You know what I mean? So I think we think of tunnels, we think of a cave, we think of dark areas, we think of a tube that, we can't see outside of it. Let's think of a clear tunnel. That means, all right, so we have a vision, we have something that we're going for, but at the same time, there might be a necessity or a need to veer out of that tunnel for a quick moment, because as we talked about, it's in moderation. It's a temporary tunnel. You're not in a tunnel for your whole life. There will be moments where you're going to veer out because somebody might need you, or you're a moment where you're going to veer out because you need to make the kind decision. So it might be easy to stay in the tunnel. I mean, a tunnel is essentially a hollow area. So it might be easier actually to stay in the tunnel, but when you have to break through that exterior line of that exterior defense, that's when it will get difficult. So it's kind of like breaking out of your routine. And I've actually thought of this too before, because when you establish a routine of waking up early in the morning and working out and things like that, it's actually harder to not do it, if that makes sense. Like it's harder to then sleep in and say, all right, I'm going to work out after work, where now you're super uncomfortable the whole day. You know, like Aaron said, it's that cognitive dissonance. So it's a very interesting concept to think, all right, I'm in the tunnel, but it's actually harder. It's easier to stay in the tunnel, but it's harder to get out of the tunnel. But once you get out of the tunnel, the things that you're doing are actually technically easier. So it's very, it's a hell of a conversation to think about.
Yeah.
I love it because DJ, this is something you, in one of our episodes, you actually said that you wanted to become a little more flexible when your routine gets disrupted, right? And when your routine gets disrupted, you don't want to be so rigid in, oh my gosh, my routine got disrupted and now your whole day's shot, right? Like, I mean, that's not like the routine's good, but when life gets in the way of your routine, you got to kind of surf that wave and say, all right,
exactly,
I'm going to handle this, right?
And when we have these tough routines that we purposely put in place,
Right.
and then we consciously say, all right, let's just veer off of it. It's going against like the act of you actually putting it in place. So it's an interesting dilemma with yourself. So I'm very, when Aaron mentioned that, I was like, that's a little next level thinking.
I mean, as long as you're you trust yourself, you know, as long as you're trusting your, like, me and my dad have talked about, you know, it doesn't really matter if your path's a straight line, because who the hell has a straight line path?
Yeah.
You know, like it's gonna go zigzag. You might go straight for a little bit, but you know, you gotta move around a little bit. As long as you're going in the right direction to where you want to be, you'll get there. You know, it's okay to be a little bit patient, and you know, you just gotta trust in yourself, and you know, the people around you, like in your upbringing and how you've worked on yourself, and then eventually one day, you know, you'll get there. But we all know that when we get there, there'll be more to have. It's more to be had. So
I'm glad we're all okay with realizing that, because I feel like there's a lot of people where it's like, yeah, I have one goal in my life and that's it. And
like, all right, buddy.
Yeah.
I'll see you there.
I'll see you there. It's really lonely at the top of Success Mountain.
Well, I tell you that, you know, what Aaron described has not come easy for me as a parent. With the boys, it's taken me, and I'm still working on it. It's taken me a long time to just trust that they're going to be okay, right? They're going to trust that their path is their path and not my path, and to trust that, you know, they are good men, and that, you know, my job now is not to define their path for them, but it's to support whatever path they choose. And that's been, you know, that's been hard. Been hard to put the ego aside, and you know, you're wanting, I think, you know, losing Marcus has had a, you know, you want to, that's put me in a position sometimes where I really want to control them, and in my mind, that's keeping them safe too, right? So, but the truth is, they'll keep themselves safe. You know, I can't keep them safe. They make their own decision. I can't make their decisions for them, right? I mean, they do whatever they want every day. Every day they do what they want, not what I want. I mean, sometimes it's what I want, but you know, they're not asking me what to do. They're not saying, "Hey, Dad, can I take a shit?" Right? They're just doing their thing, right?
Yep.
You have to, man. It's been hard, but the better I do at it, the better they seem to do at it. You know,
What makes you happier?
Yeah, I mean, the less control that I try to exert, the better they do, and then the happier I am. So,
what an interesting
I just wish I came to this realization a lot sooner.
Well, this is why we're having this podcast. This is
learn.
This is the first
Aaron, I just want you to know I've always done the best I knew how to do. I always did. I'm sorry it's taken me so long to learn.
Hey, don't worry. My dad has said some pretty mean things to me too, so I'm right there with you.
He's never been mean to me.
Well,
like so for example, for example, my dad asked me this morning, because his car was in the shop, if he could use my car. And I said, yeah, sure. Here, like, here's my keys. But there was a time when my dad would ask to use my car, and I would probably like, for what? Like, for what? I would have nothing to do, and I would just immediately question. Why not just give him it? I would push and push back, which makes him want to push more, and it just like, you kind of got it. You both sides have to let the other side move a little bit, and it's getting a lot better.
Yeah, you would have done that, but to be fair, I probably would have started it too, right? So, I mean, there was a time when I would say, "Hey, Aaron, can I borrow the car?" Right? Or can I, I'd say, "Can I borrow your car?" And I'd say, "Well, can I borrow my car?" Right? So inherent in that is a control thing, right? Inherent in that is an ego from me. So naturally, that's going to elicit, right? If I do this, you're going to do this, right? But if I stay here and you stay here, there's no, we don't ratchet up. So yeah, I mean, I think we've both done. I mean, the good thing is this isn't the first time Aaron and I talk like this, right? We sit down in non-emotional moments and talk about how we want to talk to one another. We talk about what makes us uncomfortable when the other one says certain things, and we listen to one another, and we try to get better for each other. And now, I mean, honestly, we're seeing the benefits. We've had a great, everybody bitches about COVID. We were laughing. We've had a great we've had a great year. I think Aaron said it's the best year we've had since Marcus died, actually.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
it's
a family.
It's funny you say that, because there were moments where Aaron and I were talking and I saw Coach Gibbs coming out of him. And it was the first time where the people who I've worked with, there was never necessarily any family members really, or on both of our sides of our families. And so when I was talking with Aaron, I mean, there were, when he mentioned the cognitive dissonance thing, it's like, typically I'm the one who will mention that. But there were multiple moments where Aaron was the one who's like, well, yeah, you do this and do that. And I'd be sitting there like, yep, yeah, that's exactly how it goes.
21 years with it, DJ.
Yeah, I know. And so it almost pushed me a little bit more to, and this is something that Coach Gibbs and I were talking about a couple of days ago when, Coach Gibbs was like, one day you want to mentor or coach a professional athlete, you want to mentor or coach a CEO, or, someone who's a millionaire or tens of 20s and 30s of millions of dollars. Like, we need to keep adapting and keep improving on our knowledge around coaching and the ideas and the beliefs that we have about leadership and connecting with people. And Aaron was a very good practice of that, because there were many things that typically I could say to someone and they would say, no, tell me more about that. I don't understand that. And then I would mention it to Aaron and he would say, yeah, well, it's this, and you have to do this. And he understood it. And so we could dive deeper into it from not just a surface level. So that was that was something new to me, which I was thankful for.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah. I mean, I learned something from the boys and Sue and you. I've told you, I mean, I learned a lot from you guys. And I learned a ton from my clients. And actually through one of the questions you said, DJ, which is, wow, tell me more. Tell me more about that. Right? Because I don't, they all have different life experiences than me. So a lot of them are older, right? A lot of them have done things that I'll never, ever do, right? They've built and run millions and millions of dollars of companies, right? It's just crazy.
I'll say you'll never do that. You probably will.
True. That I haven't done yet, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So, but it was I enjoyed that aspect. It's kind of like the making sure that you're not the smartest person in the room type of feeling.
Right.
So I enjoyed that. And so thank you, Aaron, for listening to your dad over the years and for taking something in and reteaching it to me in a different perspective.
It took me a while.
Well, thank you to both of you. I mean, Aaron, thank you for trusting us to do the program with you. But DJ, thank you for being another voice, right?
Mhm.
At the end of the day, you and I talked about this recently because I want you to get some more coaching and mentoring, right? At the end of the day, we shouldn't have one coach or mentor in our life, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm really fortunate that I have great high school friends, I have great college friends, and I rely on all of them to lead my boys by example, right? And my hope is that they're providing voices to Aaron and Casey, just like you provided a voice to Aaron, right? That the messages will be directionally similar, but you'll have a different perspective, a different way to communicate, and Aaron will hear it differently, and Casey will hear it differently. And,
Mhm.
it takes a village is cliche for a reason.
It
Right?
does. Yeah, you can't hear the same stuff from the same people. I think eventually we'll start to tune it out, and eventually we'll start to say, is there anybody else who knows anything around here who I can also listen to? And I mean, a great example is the mastermind groups, and
Right.
having those different perspectives. We've said it, the values in the group. So granted, the value is in our one-on-one conversations as well, because those are a little bit more intimate and personal, but everybody has their own perspectives and everybody has their own ideas, and every single other person can learn from them if they listen, if they let themselves listen to it. So a little food for thought.
So, Aaron, what did you like about the program? What were kind of your biggest takeaways?
Um, hmm, I liked that. Just going more into depth about some of like a lot of the things that since I've lived with you for most of my life, I've heard a lot of the things, but to go in depth in those things, like even farther than what we've been, was refreshing. Almost like a little, almost like a tune up. But there's a lot of things that I learned that had changed my mind about things. I mean, during that time, I had a job that I wasn't really. I mean, so at the time that I was just happy to have a job and um, be making money during such a tough time and to have such a nice life outside of it to and then near the end to be at the point where I was like, wow, I really hate my job. This is the only thing in life that, is really you know, I would say bad, but I was doing it for 12 hours a day, 13 counting the drive there and back. So I liked the fact that it made me realize what I wanted and who I was and who I want to be, more of sorts to speak to like how I wanted to move forward with school and my goals and that type of thing.
Fantastic.
And I remember the day too when it was our meeting on roles when we were talking about important identities and things we wanted in our life, and Aaron was shot. He was exhausted, he was dirty, he was nasty, and we were working through our time together, and I remember in the beginning two of the best things he had said was in the beginning of our time together. He said, I'm so blessed and I'm always happy. Like I'm really happy all the time. Like I know how to find the happiness in things. In that meeting, I didn't see the happiness. I felt like it was sucked out of him a little bit. And I got blunt with him and I basically was like, dude, this job's kicking your ass and you don't need it to do like, there's no rhyme or reason. Yes, I understand that money is good, but I think our well-being is a little bit more valuable than it. And so we got pretty deep and pretty honest with each other. And after that, we challenged each other to find some other possible employment opportunities. And I think he had 3 or 4 interviews or something that in the next 2 or 3 days. So I think that's a good lesson for everybody is that, money is important, and we will need money in order to pay our bills and to sustain a certain standard of life that we want. But at the exact same time, our well-being and our mental state and our mind management, not mental health, don't use that word anymore, our mind management is ultimately really what dictates a lot of our happiness too. So I think that's a huge piece that when Aaron and I got together on that meeting, we realized it together. And so that was a big turning point of our time.
The people who have the best relationships are the happiest.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
People with the most money.
Well, gentlemen, thank you very much. I really appreciate you guys taking the time to walk us through podcast number 27.
Mm-hmm.
And
first of its kind right there.
Yeah, first of its kind. And Aaron, I hope someday that you're part of this group and interviewing somebody yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows?
Who knows? Maybe someday.
Why not us?
Why not us?
Why not us?
Love it.
All right, gentlemen. Anything else before we wrap up? Deej, Aaron?
Thank you, Aaron, for being my friend, man, and hanging out with me for the past 2 months. And
Just two guys talking about love, Deej.
that was our last meeting was on love. And
Two guys talking about love.
What else? Where else would you rather be talking to a good buddy of yours about love?
I love it.
Thank you, Deej.
Yes, but thank you, man. Learned a lot, and I think you're just scratching the surface.
Just getting started, boys.
Just getting started, baby.
All right.
Sounds good.
We'll see you.
Have a good night.
Yep. Bye.